Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Beyond Hyperconvergence, HCI to private cloud with the ability to extend to hybrid and power your business. Today's event is brought to you by Nutanix and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for today's event. Now, on this webinar, we want this to be educational, of course, so we encourage you to use the questions box in your audience console. It's right there on the left-hand side, and in fact, I can highlight it a little bit there for you, so you know where that is. Just to the right of the Handouts tab, if you click on Questions, it's there that you'll enter your questions, and keep those technical questions coming throughout the event because we'll be doing a dedicated Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. And then also, I want to call your attention to a number of handouts that are available for, actually they're links. So if you click on the links to the private cloud design guide, the solutions overview, and the private cloud reference architecture, that'll open up a new window there in your web browser. And then you can download those resources directly from there. So I encourage you to check those out during the event. And then finally, at the end of today's event, after the Q&A session, we'll be awarding a Tango $300 gift card to one lucky attendee on the live event. If you're watching this on demand, I'm sorry, the drawing has already occurred. The prize terms and conditions can be found there in the Handouts tab. And with that, I'm excited to introduce you to today's presenter. That is Mr. Alan Waters, Senior Solutions Marketing Manager at Nutanix. Alan, thank you for being on the event today.
Hey, David. Thanks for having me. And I'm looking at the questions, and I'm seeing a lot of hellos, and a couple are from sunny Florida, and I'm calling from outside of Boston, and it's still cold here, and we're waiting for spring to get here. So I'm jealous of the warm weather that some of those folks are saying hello from. But yeah, hi everyone. As David mentioned, Alan Waters. I am a solution marketing manager from Nutanix. And today I'm going to be talking about going beyond hyperconvergence. And, what exactly does that mean? Well, taking the first step to HCI is a great start in modernizing your infrastructure. And when I say modernizing, I usually, refer back to legacy three-tier, storage and compute type of environments. But what about taking that HCI infrastructure and environment a step further, right? What if you can take your HCI infrastructure and build out a private cloud and really get all the same capabilities that you might expect from a public cloud vendor, except it's all on-prem, right? And taking that private cloud and extending it, then to hybrid cloud and having access to the public cloud capabilities. So that's what I'm going to lead you through today. Some of the capabilities of building that private cloud, the different components, and then taking that private cloud and reaching out to that hybrid and multi-cloud environment, and how Nutanix can really get you there. So this slide, I've been showing this slide for a couple of months now, but I think it means more today than ever, given the circumstances with COVID-19 and the pandemic and so forth. But, IT can really be a huge part of helping, keep the business going. And just look, 60 or 90 days ago, right? Many companies, suddenly had to have 500 employees working from home, right? Could you spin up 500 desktops overnight if 500 folks had to suddenly work from home? Is your infrastructure agile enough to do such a thing? But when you talk about capabilities like that, IT can really be the hero, and they can be a huge part in keeping the business going and keeping it moving ahead. Even when you look at the competition, if they can't do such a thing. But having a platform that doesn't hold you back and allows you to be flexible like that can really be a big piece of helping keep that the business going. So here's some of the bigger challenges, right, that you might be looking at today. Complex infrastructures, and I kind of talked about the legacy three-tier with compute and storage separate. And there's a lot of challenges when looking at a current environment. Unpredictable, being able to scale it out, and so forth. But there's a lot of challenges that you might be looking at. But what if you could solve some of those challenges, right? What if you could do all of those things? What if you can avoid some of the potential dead ends and really deliver quantifiable results at every step of the journey? Roll out apps faster, get insight from those apps, make it actionable, things of that nature. And of course, everything needs to be wrapped with security. That's never going away. It's always a top concern, as well as staying compliant. And data is really going to be your most important asset, and that needs to be protected as well. And not just protected, but it needs to be protected everywhere, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud. And of course, having the cloud-like agility and scalability for all your apps and workloads. So, the market, the public cloud market is growing like crazy, right? A lot of workloads are moving to the cloud. And why? Well, the cloud is agile. You can go to the one of the big public cloud vendors with a credit card. You swipe your credit card, you get your VMs in minutes. You know what you ordered. It can scale like crazy. It's agile. You have easy management. So there's a ton of reasons why there's a lot of workloads are moving to the cloud, and why the public cloud market is growing like crazy. There's a lot of reasons for on-prem, right? There's a lot of reasons for private cloud as well. And these four reasons are really when you're looking at comparing to public, right? When you look at data gravity and legacy applications, especially when if you talk to, we have a customer come into the briefing center and they say, well, we have an all cloud policy. Every workload has to move to the cloud. But then when you dig in, and it's like, well, how many applications do you have? Well, we have 200 to 300 apps. Moving some of those legacy applications, to the cloud can be expensive and it's a lot of work. So kind of that data gravity and making those migrations can be hard. You can have more predictable costs, especially when you roll an app out on a public cloud. And it's a predictable nature type of workload. That might be, since it's a predictable and not a seasonable or a burstable type of workload, it might be a workload that's more of a fit for on-prem. It might even save you money on-prem. There's also that feeling of more control, and whether that's security or a compliance sort of thing. And then there's always the regulatory concerns, right? Do you know where that data is hosted? If you're up in the public cloud, for sure, where that is, especially on an on-premises data center, and kind of like that GDPR, where if a database is outside of a geography and so forth, for sure that those things are being met, and those regulatory concerns are being met. So there's a lot of reasons for both, a lot of good reasons for both. So what's the answer, right? Well, the answer is a hybrid cloud. And why is that? Well, because it gives you a little of both. It gives you that private cloud, all that predictable performance, all the low latency, the regulatory compliance, and kind of that greater control that you might feel with the workloads being on-prem. And then you have the public cloud as well. When you have that hybrid cloud, and you can move workloads in that seamless hybrid cloud operation for those workloads that might be elastic, for those workloads that might be seasonable or burstable, or even cloud native, where they're a better fit or public. So, and that's why my presentation really wouldn't be complete without kind of an IDC stat, right? But in an IDC survey, they said that, hey, 85% of IT professionals said a hybrid cloud is probably the best way to go, right? Because it has a little bit of both. It has private, it has public, and it can really meet your ideal IT operating model, no matter which way you want to go. But how do you make that happen, right? Well, a big piece of that is making sure that the platform that you go with makes it easy. Picking the right platform is the right start, and when you pick that right one, it just makes everything, as far as seamless control plane to the public cloud and so forth, it just makes it easier. And that's where Nutanix comes in, right? One of the big things about Nutanix is making things easy, making things not as complicated as some of the big suites out there. That you might need a load of professional services to finally get up and running for something like a self-service portal. Adding on these different capabilities should be easy. Getting different components added on and up and running quickly should be easy. and capable of supporting every workload. So as you look at different platforms, these are some of the different components that might build up your private cloud, right? All the way starting down at the bottom, where at least, from a Nutanix point of view, we believe HCI is where you start, and then moving up the stack from storage to automation to business continuity to network and cloud security. But it all revolves around the workloads on top, right? End user computing, VDI, databases, whether it's Oracle, SQL, what have you, SAP HANA for business critical applications. But that platform needs to support all the applications that run across the top, from remote office, branch office, to general compute and dev test. But having that platform to be able to support with all the different components available, to help build out that private cloud. And when you look at all these different components, which I'll touch on, I'll talk about each of these in a second. You don't have to add all these on at once, right? The important piece is having a platform that can allow you to add capabilities as needed. Look at what challenges you the most. If it's storage consolidation, start with HCI with a little bit of storage consolidation, and then 3 months down the road, you can tackle things as they come up. But having that platform to make everything easy is the best start, and Nutanix can do that. So of course, Nutanix was one of the industry leaders in the HCI, right? We've been at it for over 10 years, still one of the market leaders. And really, we believe it starts with HCI. So moving from a legacy 3-tier architecture, trying to converge all those different resources into a single scale-out solution, really that can run any of those applications that we're running across the top of that first slide, right? Start small, scale it over time. You need to have an intelligent one-click operations. You need unified management to make it all easy. Condense all those storage and compute silos into a unified manager so everything gets easier. And it all has to be resilient. It has to be always on, and it has to be able to, sustain outages, without thinking twice. Your end users don't even notice, if there's something that does happen with a disk or something like that. But you need that basic HCI infrastructure to make it all happen. And Nutanix has been at it longer than just about anyone, and we believe our HCI platform is the best. And again, there's a lot of benefits to talk about HCI. I mentioned start small and scale out, unified manager, the infrastructure, unifying the infrastructure and the resiliency. But we do have plenty of webinars talking just about HCI and Nutanix HCI if you need to learn more about that. But again, Nutanix has been at it longer than anyone. So as we go up the stack here, the next is storage consolidation. So when you look at some of the other vendors out there, especially some of the big vendors, and you go up to them and you say, well, I have object data that I need to protect, or I have files that I need to protect. They're going to look at you and say, well, I'm going to sell you an array for that, and I'm going to sell you an array for that. And then when you talk about block storage, for example, they're going to sell you, 20 different arrays for that type of thing. So that's not helping. That's not consolidating. The great thing about Nutanix is we're able to help you consolidate all that data, all file, all object, all block, down to this single platform. Because really, the data that's being generated by your customers, employees, and systems, that is the most important thing that you have. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, especially with the lots of different types. But Nutanix enables customers to consolidate all that data onto a single platform, all the databases, files, objects, and allows you to scale non-disruptively as you consolidate down to that single platform. The next is automation. So automation can be looked at in lots of different ways, right? You can look at it from a platform point of view, and kind of lifecycle management and keeping drivers updated and keeping firmware updated. But when you look at it from kind of taking automation one step further, it can range all the way up to having a self-service portal where a developer can come in. And I used this example earlier where they ordered a VM. How many steps does that take you today to get a VM out to, say, a developer or engineer? Is it 100 steps and multiple spreadsheets to track it? Make that a one-step self-service portal where they log in, they click on a button, and they get their virtual machine within 5 minutes. So there are lots of different types of automation to think about. Whether it is kind of and HCI delivers some of this by itself, working all the way up to the automation. And again, the results of adding more automation on top of your HCI environment means higher productivity, better SLAs, efficient resource utilization, and so forth. And there's different pieces of this automation, to help reduce those complex and repetitive tasks across the whole IT lifecycle, and really reduce those down to a few clicks, right? And really, it's all about getting higher productivity and getting things done faster. So another piece of the automation is identifying cloud costs, right? And I like to think of it as, to become a true cloud operator, and really show it back to your business, you need to be able to monitor, you need to be able to, say, meter, and be able to charge back all the actual costs, if you need to. I mean, even just sometimes just showing them or showing departments or developers what they're using, sometimes can help solve bad habits, right? If you want to charge back or you need to charge back, having the ability to do that, the usage and staff, and showing it back to the different business units and departments. But Nutanix is really the only private cloud solution that delivers these capabilities, and we can deliver it. Well, not just the only one that delivers it, but delivers the service with no hardware required. So, all the metering and all the cloud cost controls and being able to show the different groups of what's going on, really helps you to become that cloud operator, for your business. The next step is business continuity and disaster recovery. So we like to look at this in three different buckets, right? From the protecting the apps and data to replicating, replication and recovery, to the backup, primary and secondary backups. But really, achieving maximum application availability, it requires a comprehensive approach that includes, the resiliency at all these different levels, to meet all the different needs of all the different workloads that you might have, whether that's on-prem in your local data center or all the way up to the cloud, right? But you gotta have, it's gotta be highly available. It's gotta be a self-healing solution. I talked a little bit about that earlier, with being able to do rebuilds quickly and so forth. And it all has to deliver the right service levels for all your applications without overhead of managing lots of disparate systems, or different data protection solutions. And the final bucket over there on the right is really being able to have, Nutanix has a lot of integration with lots of third-party and secondary backup parties or partners like Veeam. So if you are using solutions like that, Nutanix does support those as well. And finally is network and cloud security. And we like to look at this in three different buckets as well. And they range from, over on the left is the platform itself. The middle would be the application and workload side of it. And then over on the right is kind of that multi-cloud security. But having the platform, and Nutanix does this, with built-in capabilities that encrypt data at rest, capabilities such as that, to network micro-segmentation that'll secure, the applications and the network that touches the data, along with having all the strong security controls with automated compliance checks, self-healing, that wherever the workloads are, it means that your cloud is going to be protected. So the middle one there with the application security is really that micro-segmentation piece. The platform on the left, as I mentioned, was having the encrypted data itself, and having native capabilities such as that, and then the multi-cloud security overrun, right, that I mentioned, being able to automatically fix and remediate problems if they do pop up. And Nutanix just does just that. So when you look at all these different components, building out a private cloud, and I mentioned a little bit about this earlier. You know, it doesn't have to be complicated. As I mentioned, it starts with making the move to HCI down there at the bottom in blue. But just don't stop there, right? And you don't have to add all these different components at once. We believe you should start with HCI. But you start with the ones that might be the challenge. If it's storage consolidation and you have lots of different arrays and you want to try and consolidate, then start with HCI and storage, and then 3 or 6 months later down the road, have the ability to add these different components easily, right? And it's all about the platform. And Nutanix makes simplicity and agility and being able to add these different components, easier than any vendor out there. So if you start with that right platform, which Nutanix, we're hoping Nutanix is the one, the rest is easy. But what comes after that? So you've done all this work. We looked at all the different pieces of and components of a private cloud. But what happens in 6 months when the developers or your sales team comes to you and they have a new application that's going to be a perfect fit for 2 million customers, right, or 2 million prospects, and they think this application since it's cloud native or it's burstable or seasonable, is going to be a better fit running on one of the big public cloud vendors, right? What do? Do you have one group managing your private cloud and then another group managing all the workloads that are running on the public cloud? That's just creating more silos. The great thing about Nutanix is we give you the ability to reach out and do a seamless, unified hybrid cloud platform. Starting out with the AWS is the first vendor that we support, but all these different capabilities from license portability to the native integration with AWS. For example, having the cluster, a Nutanix cluster, either running on-prem or running on AWS, having the seamless movement of applications between clouds. If you need it running on-prem or you need it running on AWS, having the ability to move them back and forth, and having a single platform to manage with the same management interface, and having that single control plane. And and Nutanix has a product called Clusters that will allow you to add that on top of all the different components that we just talked about, the private cloud, to really give you this hybrid cloud platform and make it real, right? It's not going to be a 6-month process of professional services coming in to give you some type of hybrid cloud with lots of different lifecycle management for lots of different pieces. The Nutanix platform offers a seamless platform between your on-prem and public cloud. And that's exactly what we deliver, right? We deliver a private, public, and hybrid cloud. We deliver it all together, giving you that seamless hybrid cloud operation and single control plane between the two. And I talked a little bit about it before. It doesn't have to be complicated. I know when you look at all these different components, you're probably thinking, "Oh, Alan, geez, I can't do all that right now." You don't have to. But the important piece to remember is that pick a platform that's going to make it easy. Obviously, I've been working with Hyperconverged for 4 or 5 years, and I drink the Hyperconverged Kool-Aid, right? And it can support all of your workloads, so that'll be your first step, right? At least make the transformation to HCI, and then add the different components as needed. The big pieces, usually customers start out with either storage consolidation and business continuity, and then add possibly automation, self-service portal to continue, making things easier and continue to make things faster and improving the business as it goes along. But picking the right platform to make all of this easy is a key piece. So my final slide, I do have some handouts in that top left section of where the question and answer section is. There's some handouts in there, but if you don't have time to read any of those handouts, visit this URL here, nutanix.com/test drive, where you can actually try out the software for yourself. Um, there's guided tours. There's some deep dives into the infrastructure. You can check out the lifecycle management and much more. So if you can do nothing else at all, if you don't have time to read any of the handouts, be sure you visit that URL and download and take a test drive for yourself. So David, those are my slides for today. I'm going to take a look at the Q&A, but I don't know if you see anywhere while I take a look here.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's do some questions from the audience now. And while we do that, I'm just going to bring up this poll for the audience. It just says, what additional information would you like about the Nutanix solution? So let's see. First question that came in, they're asking is having an HCI environment the same as a private cloud, or how can you tell the two apart?
Yeah, and I kind of touched on this a little bit throughout my presentation. And the same can be said for, say, an organization that might have some storage over in the corner and some compute over in the other corner, or it's an organization that just started out with HCI. The way I picture a private cloud is having, much the same capabilities that you might get when you visit a public cloud, right? You swipe, and I use the example, you swipe your credit card and you get a bunch of, you get your VMs through a self-service portal with all the management and ease of use and so forth. So while organizations might, take the leap and they've already made the move to HCI, take it another step, and continue to improve, continue to make things faster, saving steps, if it's 100, and I use the example, if it's 100 steps to get a VM out to a developer, set up a portal for them where they can get in there and do a push button and get the virtual machine themselves, right? So there are different capabilities to add on to just, your hyper-converged infrastructure to continue simplifying and continue to make things easier.
Okay, that makes sense. Excellent. Let's see, next question. The industry is saying public cloud is the way of the future. Private cloud seems to be the opposite of that. What's your take on that, Alan?
Yeah, and not sure if the person tuned in late or not, but it kind of goes back to earlier in my presentation where organizations, I think a majority of organizations think that hybrid cloud is really the end game, right? Because it gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you public cloud access, and it gives you all the security and compliance and control of on-prem. So it combines the two. And really, the important piece, in my opinion, is picking a platform that makes, getting to hybrid cloud easy. All the different components that I talked about in I call it the layer cake slide. And then adding the capabilities of reaching out and having a single control plane to get to a hybrid cloud. But it starts with making the move to HCI, and then setting up your private cloud, and then building out your hybrid cloud when you need it.
Got it. Okay. Let's see. Another question here that came in. James is asking, does having a private cloud mean I won't have access to public or hybrid clouds?
Actually, can you say that? I was looking at Arturo's question, but can you say that one more time?
No problem. They're asking, does having a private cloud mean I won't have access to public or hybrid clouds?
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes back to what I just I spoke about, and it comes down to picking the right platform, right? Yeah, you can pick an HCI platform, And then in the end, because that HCI platform makes it difficult to get to a public cloud, you're just creating more silos. Make sure, and the Nutanix platform does this, right? It gives you um, a private cloud and all the control you have for private cloud. But then when you add clusters on top of it, it allows you to reach out to, say, AWS and run workloads back and forth between that private cloud and AWS. But again, it's make sure you take a look at the platform to make that easy, and that you're not setting up more silos.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Let's see. More questions coming in. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Keep them coming. Next question I wanted to address is Nutanix a hardware solution or software solution? And if it's software, can it run on existing hardware, or what hardware do you use?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we consider ourselves a software company, but one of the great things about Nutanix is the flexibility that we offer. We don't lock you down to any specific hardware. If you want HP or if you want Dell servers, not a problem. Also, we don't lock you down to hypervisors. So if you do use Hyper-V, or you want to continue to use ESXi or Acropolis, our hypervisor, there is flexibility in hypervisors as well. So there's lots of different options with our software, and the big piece there is flexibility.
Okay. Okay. Next question. Joseph's asking is, can you run all types of workloads, including database, VDI, file servers, unstructured data? Can all these different workloads share a common pool of storage in a single HCI cluster?
Yeah, it's a great question. So one of the cool things that Nutanix has is a virtual machine. It's called the CVM that makes all the different support for the different like objects and files and block how it makes that happen. So it will set them up in different areas. So it's not going to be one big shared pool, I believe. But the CVM does make is what makes this kind of the magic happen to support all of them on that single platform. And I see Joseph, I see, I'll get your contact info and I'll send you some more information on this about the CVM and how it handles all of that in that kind of pool of storage. But you're kind of getting a little bit ahead or a little bit deep in what I can talk about. So I'll send you some additional information after the
Okay.
call on that. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. And then I know you mentioned you saw the question there from Arturo. Do you want to respond to that?
Yeah. Let me take a stab at that. So Arturo's asking, how complicated would it be to deploy in an organization that already has, for example, the G Suite and AWS. So when clusters is out, Arturo, you can actually run a Nutanix. You'll be able to run a Nutanix cluster just on AWS. And you'll be able to run those workloads on that cluster up there. And then, for example, if you do add an on-prem cluster, um, the cluster software will make the seamless piece happen. So you can either start on-prem or you can start those clusters up in AWS, and then when you're ready, if you want to add, make that single control plane happen, between the two, you can do that when you're ready. And again, that's some of the flexibility that the clusters software that makes kind of all that magic of the hybrid cloud happen. And I'm happy to send you some additional information on kind of the details of how that happens after the call too. But you can do that for sure, and it's not complicated at all. That's the big piece about Nutanix is simplicity.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. We all need more simplicity.
And David, I see. Oh, you asked that. Yeah, yeah, you got the test drive up there. Okay, great.
Yeah, I wanted to share with everyone that URL. I know we took it off the screen, a little quickly. You brought it back on there now. Thank you. But I also posted it in the questions box there as well. If anybody wants to try out the Nutanix solution for yourself. Alan, do you want to walk us through a little bit about, you go to this website, maybe you fill out a form, like what happens after that?
Yep. So, as an organization, we are going to capture your info, so you do have to fill out a form. But then you have access, as I mentioned, to there are a bunch of different ways to explore the software. Right there's some guided tours, which are great, and they kind of do the pop-ups. Here you're going to have this, and here you're going to have this. So there's some guided tours that you can do, but you can actually download the software. I believe it's for 90 days now, and actually try it for yourself and really dig in, and see what it can do and see how easy it is. You can actually do some lifecycle management and see how easy that is to do, and so forth. There's a bunch of different ways and different options, to learn about the software, and the test drive is the best way to do it.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, sounds very easy. Sounds like a great opportunity to see what Nutanix can do. Why Nutanix? What makes Nutanix so unique, in your opinion?
Yeah, and I think I kind of talked about it, a few minutes ago, David, um, where some vendors will have you lock in, right? So you're stuck with one hypervisor, even though it's probably the market leading hypervisor. You don't have the flexibility to use any other hypervisors. Well, what if 6 months down the road, Hyper-V, you need to create an app using Hyper-V, and maybe it saves you some money and so forth. Having flexibility on hypervisors, having flexibility on hardware. And then, if you dig in a little bit and you look at some of the virtualization components, like the software-defined storage piece of the different HCI, do you do the homework on looking at the software-defined storage piece of it, and make sure it's resilient, make sure it does fast rebuilds. If a drive gets pulled out, make sure it rebuilds right away and doesn't wait around 50 minutes to figure out what's happened. So take a look at the SDS, take a look at the performance that the different vendors do, and again, hopefully you'll find out that Nutanix is a leader in all of those different pieces, from the flexibility to the software-defined storage piece of it, to even our hypervisor called Acropolis. So we're very flexible, and we like to say it's a flexible software solution that's always
I like that. I like that.
on.
Flexible software solution that's always on. All right. Well, I think that we've covered all the questions that have come in, and I've learned a lot about Nutanix. I know the audience has as well. Alan, thank you so much for your presentation today.
Great, I appreciate being here. Thank you.
And before we go, I want to award the winner of our Tango $300 gift card. That's going to Charles Schaefer from North Carolina. Charles Schaefer from North Carolina. Congratulations. We'll reach out to deliver that gift card. Thank you, everyone in our audience, for joining us on the event today. For more information, make sure you visit Nutanix.com. Also, check out the handouts that are available there in the handouts tab of your audience console. Those are links to some very nice Nutanix resources that you'll want to check out. I hope everyone has a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.